November is moving month in the NFL. This is the time of the year where the playoff contenders separate themselves from the pretenders. For now, heading into this Sunday's road game against the dynamic Denver Broncos, the Dolphins are still in the playoff conversation.
But how long will it last? That's the key question.
That is. Nice job reading that teleprompter, newspaper guy. That's what we're here to discuss. This week's edition of X's and Omar. Are the Miami Dolphins a playoff-worthy team, or are they just pretending? I'm CBS 12's Matt Lincoln. He's Sun Sentinel Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly. You are curious Dolphins fans wondering if Miami's 6-4 NFL team is for real. As usual, we'll take your questions on Twitter. All you have to do is ask them using the hashtag XOmar or send us a video question. And we're also looking for some challenges. We've got our referee here.
Weak whistle today. Weak whistle today.
I was trying to spare you guys, so I blew it all in your face last time.
That's what you did. Okay, so if Omar says something that you don't like, that you think is wrong.
Could be meant to. Could be meant to.
You're gonna like everything I say. Make sure you issue a challenge using the hashtag XOmar, and our referee will throw the challenge flag. We watched the Dolphins beat the Buffalo Bills last Thursday, getting that monkey off Joe Philbin and Ryan Tannehill's back. These Dolphins, in their victories, are averaging 17 points. They lost 2 games this year in the final minute of the fourth quarter when the defense gave up leads to the Packers and Lions. So, how good are these 2014 Dolphins, Omar?
If you look at a lot of the key statistics that lead to victories in terms of turnover margin, efficiency on first down, efficiency on third down, they're pretty good. Mm-hmm. However, they're still a little bit troubling and problematic in some key areas, particularly red zone. They're one of the NFL's worst teams when it comes to red zone efficiency. However, they're the team that actually gets to the red zone the most, which shows you that there are issues that need to be fixed and corrected. But overall, this is a good Dolphins team. And we've said from the very beginning of the season, talent-wise, this is a Dolphins team. This is a good Dolphins team. There aren't many things that they have, that they need, that they don't have from a talent standpoint. It's the talent is pretty spread out all over the team. The question is, can they put it all together and have a better December than they had last year? If you remember, 2013, who will forget?
You can't forget it.
You were on pace. You were 8-6. Finishing the season with the Buffalo Bills, led by Thad Lewis, and then the Geno Smith-led Jets, and you laid a stink bomb, scoring 7 points in the final month of the season, final 2 games, with your team in position to win the playoffs. The question is, have they learned from that experience? Have they changed? Is this a different Dolphins team?
I mean, I think since week 3, since that Kansas City loss,
yeah.
I think they have played like a playoff caliber team. They haven't looked great in a few of the wins they've had, and they've looked pretty good in the 2 losses that they've had.
You know, if you really look at their games that they've lost this season in terms of Buffalo, that was just a special teams stink bomb. Kansas City is probably the only team that's convincingly beaten them. And if you think about how Kansas City has played this season, the Chiefs are probably one of the hottest teams in the NFL. They don't have a lot of star power, but they're a very efficient, effective team that doesn't beat themselves. And then you go to Green Bay and Detroit. You lost to 2 of the hottest teams in the NFL, and realistically, those teams beat you on the final series of the final play on a game where the defense had the lead but didn't finish it. And that was the key. If you really look at this team, if the defense had finished 2 games, this Dolphins team would be 8-2. They're 2 drives from being 8-2.
So what have you seen the biggest levels of improvement for this team, maybe since week 3 and in the season in general?
Oh, since week 3, if we're going to start from the Oakland game, the changes that Ryan Tannehill has shown has been it's a drastically better quarterback, a different quarterback. I believe he's got the 7th highest quarterback rating since week 4, which was the Oakland game. And to me, it's about the efficiency that he's playing with, 65% completions. Now, they're nickel and diming you to death, and there's nothing wrong with nickel and diming as an offense because Chad Pennington won a lot of games and is the NFL's most efficient quarterback that way. The question is, can Ryan Tannehill take that next step? Now that he's an efficient quarterback, he's got a 92.2 quarterback rating. Now that he's efficient, can he take that next step and deliver more 20-plus play passing plays? Can he deliver more deep balls to Mike Wallace or big plays to Charles Clay or Jarvis Landry? That's really the key in order to help Ryan Tannehill get to the next step. I think he's polished a lot of areas of his game, but he still has to deliver the big plays and he still has to deliver in the red zone.
How does let's talk about the playoff picture right now. The Dolphins took that one step. Now they've got a little distance between themselves of the Bills, but of course, you feel a little separation, though, even from the top of the division with the Patriots looking like they are going to wind up winning this division. I think the Dolphins are. So we're talking wild card here.
We are realistically talking wild card.
Okay.
Now, if the Dolphins go up to New England and beat the Patriots and sweep that series, then maybe it's in play in terms of having the conversation about winning the AFC. But I realistically see the Patriots winning 11 games. If you just look at their schedule, they will win 11 games. Unless something drastic happens like Tom Brady tears an ACL, I think they'll win 11 games. If you're stretching the season out and hoping for some upsets from the Dolphins, they can go to Denver and upset the Broncos. Broncos haven't lost 2 games in a row. Broncos actually have lost 2 games in a row every year, or actually not Broncos, but Peyton Manning has lost 2 games in a row every year except for last year. And so just coming off that St. Louis loss, maybe it can happen. Dolphins defense will have to play great. The offense have to be efficient. They got to win turnovers. A lot of things got to happen. You got to be perfect, but it's possible. But this Dolphins team, if they stretch it out, if they just max out everything, I think 10 wins is the cap of what they can accomplish.
And I've broken down the schedule. I've looked at what the rest of these teams have. A lot of those teams, the AFC North, they're playing each other a lot.
Oh, yeah, they're going to beat each other up.
10 wins should be enough to get the other playoff, the other wild card that the Chiefs are not going to get.
To me, what's critical, you're not going to, if the Chiefs get 10 wins because they have that tiebreaker, you need multiple teams to get into 10 wins. And right now, the Steelers and the Chiefs are in the driver's seat for that wild card spot. I think it's very critical that the Dolphins beat the Baltimore Ravens on December the 7th. That is also a team that's going to be in the contention. That's probably going to be an elimination game. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Dolphins. And then, of course, you got to sweep the Jets. That's easier said than done.
Well, and for your Dolphins fans and you're worrying about the wild card position, just watch that AFC North because that's what they have to worry about.
You got to hope they beat each other up.
And you got to hope that no one really gets out of there.
I mean, the Browns, the Ravens, the Steelers,
the Bengals.
Bengals are actually the division leaders right now. So you got all 4 of those teams. At least 2 of them are going to be making the playoffs.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely.
No. Well, then you're talking about either the Chiefs or the Dolphins not making the playoffs.
Hey.
All right. Our first question comes from Andrew Woods, who wants to know, out of all the healthy players, give me your starting 5 O-line look.
Oh, definitely. Interesting that you asked that question because I've said something that...
Is it interesting that he asked that question because you put that question in the script?
Well, I mean, the script is a group effort. No, but one thing that I'm not comfortable with Dallas Thomas as a starting right tackle.
Okay.
And it's based on what I've seen from him. I think he's a decent guard. I think he's decent, can get the job done. Right tackle, you're pushing it. And the reason is because 5 to 7 plays per game, his pass blocking sets are just completely off. And it's an Olay situation to the quarterback, no matter the talent level that he's facing. And this week against some Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, it's going to be pretty impressive. This is going to be the week. Fortunately for him, he's had a week to practice at the position, unlike last week where he was facing Mario Williams. So to answer the question, my starting offensive line, which would feature the top 5 players on the team, I would have Juwan James at left tackle. I would have Darren College, hopefully he comes back from the injury, at left guard. I'd have Samson Sattelli at center. I'd have Shelley Smith or Dallas Thomas at right guard. And I would have Mike Pouncey at right tackle. The reason I say that is because I'm a firm believer that Pouncey can do everything that you ask him to do on that offensive line. He's that type of talent. He's that type of player. He's that type of leader. And while he might not be an elite right tackle, I think he can get the job done. But if Dallas Thomas shows you that he's struggling, hey, insert Nate Garner in there. He started 20 NFL games. Nate has been an adequate starter. He started 5 games at right tackle. He can get the job done. You just got to that's your weakest spot outside of Sam linebacker on the entire team, and you got to strengthen it.
So is there any signs that the Dolphins are near making that move, moving Pouncey to right tackle?
No. It hasn't even been in a conversation, hasn't been discussed. They're putting all their eggs in Dallas Thomas's basket right now. I'm not sure that that's a smart move, but we'll see after Denver.
Come on, Coach Philbin, listen to Coach Omar over here.
If I've recommended, you can guarantee it's not going to happen.
All right, at Pug1988 asks, what do the Dolphins need to improve on to be a Super Bowl contender in your eyes?
I think they've got to deliver in the red zone.
Yeah.
You got to at least be a top 16 team in the red zone. And Mike Pouncey said it to me after the game, after the Buffalo Bills game, where the team was 2 of 6 in the red zone. Their percentage dropped to, you're scoring 44% of your red zone opportunities turn into a touchdown. It's a problem. And it's going to continue to be a problem. And when you're playing good teams and you need to put up points like this week against Denver, and you can't put up those points, you're going to be in trouble. I think you're going to need 28 points to beat the Denver Broncos, at least, if your defense is great. And if you're not scoring in the red zone, if you're not getting 7 instead of 3, you're in trouble. So I think for this team to be considered a contender, they've got to produce better in the red zone. And they've also got to continue to produce or produce better big plays.
Well, I was going to say that, not just the red zone, they just need to score more touchdowns. Whether that's scoring when they get in the red zone or making some bigger plays. Longest touchdown play is 21 yards.
21 yards.
21 yards. They've just got to find a way to get into the end zone.
They are a nickel and dime offense, and you know what leads to big plays or red zone efficiency? Accuracy, yards after catch. You know what gives you yards after catch? Accuracy. That all comes back to one person.
The quarterback, right?
Quarterback.
Okay, that's what I know. All right. Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback, seems to be turning a little bit of a corner as an NFL starter. He's got a 92.2 passer rating, which has him ranked as the NFL's 14th best quarterback.
Celebration for the Patience Brigade.
Well, hey, I mean, it's let's throw him a parade because he has gotten to a point where he would put him in that second tier of quarterbacks.
He is in the second tier of quarterbacks, NFL quarterbacks right now. He's having a better season than Joe Flacco. He's having a better season than Colin Kaepernick. He's having a better season than Russell Wilson. He's having a better season than Andy Dalton. Those are his peers.
Yeah, well, he's doing better than them. What's been the difference you have seen from Tannehill since the Oakland game, which we all remember is when Joe Philbin called him out?
He wouldn't endorse him. Right. He didn't call him out. He just wouldn't name him a starter.
He called him out without verbally calling him out.
And you know what's interesting about that whole situation, and people will poo-poo it and gloss over it, Joe Philbin was basically saying my quarterback play isn't good enough without saying my quarterback play isn't good enough. And it's sending a message to the entire team, sending a message to Ryan Tannehill. And if you look at what's happening in Washington right now with RG3, hey, they did the same thing. Unfortunately for RG3, his coach flat out called him out and told the world everything that he isn't doing good enough. Now, for Ryan Tannehill, you didn't need that because Ryan Tannehill's ego isn't as big as RG3's. However, you got to think he felt like there was an opportunity, he was losing his opportunity or hold on the team. And he's still not producing big plays. He's still not producing in the red zone. But he's holding on to the ball, owning time of possession, giving the defense an opportunity to rest. He's, scoring touchdowns. He's running with the ball. He's limiting his turnovers. That's great. You don't have to be a dynamic quarterback. You don't have to be Peyton Manning. All you have to be is a good game manager, efficient. Alex Smith. Look at what Alex Smith is doing in Kansas City. If you are an efficient quarterback that takes care of the ball, gets first downs, scores touchdowns in the red zone, you can win. And not just in the playoffs. You can win a Super Bowl.
Well, you talk about all those things and all the things that he's doing well. The most important thing, though, is that the Dolphins are winning football games. If they were 4-6 or 3-7, then we wouldn't be talking about Ryan Tannehill the same way, even if he was putting the exact same numbers up.
I don't know. If they were 4-6 and he was producing 400-plus passer rating performances, I would say, hey, he's not the problem.
Right.
There are other issues. But right now, if you look at this defense outside of the 2 games they lost, they are a top 5 unit. They are elite. You give them a lead. Give them a lead. And, if they've got a 10-point lead against Peyton Manning, it can get dangerous. That's the type of defense that they're able to play. Now, give them a lead, give them time of possession, take care of the football, don't put them in bad situations, and you've got a good football team.
But if they have a 4-point lead with under 2 minutes to go, we don't know.
Yeah, they've squandered those opportunities twice. We'll see if they'll squander it a third time.
All right. Gary Hadida wants to know, what's your prediction on Tannehill's future with the Dolphins? Is he a franchise guy? I feel like we talk about this every week.
No.
Okay.
I mean, the reality of the situation is he's barely a tier 2 quarterback. He's realistically a tier 3 quarterback. The problem with Tannehill is the consistency issue. Right now he's hot. This is probably the hottest he's ever been in his entire career. The question is, will he stay hot? Right before those final 2 games, when he beat the Steelers in New England, wasn't he hot? Yeah. And then what happened? To me, it's about seeing whether or not he's turned the corner and has become that consistent quarterback that can do just enough to get the team in position to win. Is he Alex Smith? And unless he's Alex Smith, he's not a franchise quarterback. A lot of people have an issue with Alex Smith getting a $90 million contract because he's just a game manager.
Right.
To me, there's no shame in just being a game manager. But ultimately, I'm not even sure Ryan Tannehill is there yet. Next year, he's got a 5th-year option on his contract the Dolphins have to opt into in May that pays him $15 million in 2016. Is Ryan Tannehill, in your mind, a $15 million quarterback?
He's not right now.
He's not right now. The question is, will he get there?
Doubtful.
You have to decide that by next May.
That's the problem. Speaking of good quarterbacks, the one Miami faces this week is pretty good. What's his name again?
I don't know, something Manning.
Something Manning. I forget. The Broncos are coming off a 22-7 loss to the St. Louis Rams, one of the real head-scratching games of the entire year. Peyton did not look sharp. What is Denver's issue right now?
They've got a ton of injuries.
Yeah.
They can't run the ball. As good as their defense is, they need a lead. Their defense is very impressive. They rush the quarterback. They're holding teams to 3.3 yards per carry. However, football is a 3-phase game. And the Patriots right now, they're not in – not the Patriots. The Broncos right now, they're not in sync. And a lot of it is also on Peyton, just because he's not comfortable with that offensive line. They looked at Richie Incognito last week. And really, they need to fortify it in order to make him comfortable in that pocket. And then heading into this Sunday's game, they've got a ton of injuries. Their starting tight end, Julian Thomas, injured. Emmanuel Sanders suffered a concussion when Peyton Manning laid him out on a catch. Monty Ball has a growing injury, is probably not going to play.
Ronnie Hillman, out.
Ronnie Hillman's out. Why do I keep calling them the Patriots? The Broncos, it's like the Dolphins going into Sunday's game without without Jarvis Landry, without Lamar Miller, and without Charles Clay. You're ripe for the picking.
That being said, what they do have is one of the best receivers in football, healthy. James Anderson, also known as @PorkCrisp on these mean Twitter streets. He wants to know, do you think Brent Grimes shadows Demaryius Thomas, who has 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns and 75 catches this season?
I would say yes from this standpoint. Jamar Taylor is going to be starting his second NFL game against Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
If I am that guy, Peyton Manning, I'm going to target the young second-round pick who has started 2 NFL games, maybe collectively has played in 6 NFL games for more than 20 snaps. He's green. So it'll allow you to shadow Brent Grimes on Demaryius Thomas. That's the approach that the Dolphins have taken against the Lions when Jamar Taylor had to be pressed into injury because of Cortland Finnegan's ankle injury. It's the approach they took against the Bills with Sammy Watkins. Demaryius Thomas is probably, I would say, arguably a top 3 receiver in the NFL.
I would, especially with the guy. When you factor in who's throwing him the ball, then he is, yes.
So I would definitely shadow Brent Grimes on him. Doesn't play to Brent's strengths, but Brent is a Pro Bowl player. Brent has got 5 interceptions on the season. The funny thing is people thought he had a horrible game against Green Bay, and realistically, Jordy Nelson is an elite receiver. Elite players are going to put up numbers. The game is designed for offensive players to catch balls. The key question is, will the defensive player make plays when the opportunity presents itself? And I think Brent Grimes' history shows that he does that.
Our next question comes from Dexter Cumberbatch, who asks, what will Coil's strategy be against the Denver Broncos?
I think his strategy will be the same strategy that they've applied every season. Consistently change up their defense, consistently change up their looks, consistently change up their package, make it a little bit difficult for Peyton Manning to decipher what's happening before snap. You know, I remember covering this team back in the Tony Sperano days, and the key to beating Peyton Manning was to disguise your looks before the snap. If you show your hand, it's like a poker game with Peyton Manning. If you show your hand before the snap, you're in trouble. Yeah. And the Dolphins are going to have to stay set, disguise their looks, not give Peyton Manning a tell in terms of what they're doing, and really attack it. And I got to say, Kevin Coil has done an outstanding job this year. His defense concepts consistently change based on the quarterback, based on the talent weapon. The approaches consistently change. Deion Jordan's covering Calvin Johnson. So it'll be interesting to see Kevin Coil's approach to beating Peyton Manning.
Because you don't sack Peyton Manning.
Peyton
Manning never gets hit.
11 sacks.
Ever.
Because the ball's out his hand
right.
before if he's feeling pressure, the ball gets out his hand. The question is, you got to take away the checkdowns. You got to take away Wes Welker, or at least limit him, contain him somehow. And then you got to make Peyton make tough throws to Demaryius Thomas or to Emmanuel Sanders. Make him make tough throws. Tough throws are harder to complete. So you got to make him make the more difficult throws. Take away the easy things like Julian Thomas, 12 touchdowns in the red zone. You got to take that away. You got to take Wes Welker away. You got to take the running game away and make him beat you big.
And talk about injuries. We don't know whether Julius Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders will play this weekend. They are banged up, but we do know that the Broncos are down to their number 3 running back. We all know the Broncos are going to be a serious challenge for that Miami defense. And this is a game in Denver where the Broncos just don't lose. They've been incredible. In fact, the Broncos have beaten the Colts, Chiefs, Cardinals, Niners, and Chargers at home by an average of almost 15 points this season. Dolphins 3-2 on the road. Do you think the altitude will be an issue up there in Denver?
You know what? We talk about variables in terms of snow, altitude, heat and humidity. Ultimately, none of those things really matter. It's a challenge. It's a challenge that you face maybe by halftime. But if the Dolphins are playing in Buffalo where there's a blizzard right now, the field is completely covered in snow. It's a challenge for both teams. Now, the altitude is a bit of an adjustment. It's a little bit of a challenge, but according to players who've played in Denver, they say by halftime you get adjusted. You just got to do extra wind sprints.
I think Peyton Manning's the much bigger challenge than the altitude. At Ferry Kid 433 wants to know, would this season be considered a failure if the Dolphins don't make it to the playoffs?
You know what? I go into every season with a baseline of what my expectations are based on the talent level that I see. 9 wins is what I thought was realistic expectation for this Dolphins team. And yes, that's not a sexy number. Yes, that probably won't get you to the playoffs. But realistically, that's a good season for this Dolphins team. This Dolphins franchise hasn't had a winning season since 2008. And sometimes you got to take baby steps to take a big leap forward. Unfortunately for Dolphin fans, 9 wins probably won't get them into the playoffs, and they'll be screaming for Joe Philbin's head and his job. But I can honestly tell you, based on what I've seen early in the season, and you could say whatever you want about the timeouts, you can say whatever you want about in-game decisions like not taking the field goal in the Green Bay game on the first series. He's done a good job. Joe as much as you want to hate on Joe Philbin, as much as you want to criticize him, criticize his coaching staff, coaches aren't the problem this year. It's execution issues. And execution comes down to the players.
Well, and let's also look at this. If they don't make the playoffs, they go 9-7, that means they're going to blow one of these games down the stretch. Right,
you got to be careful about those Jets games. Rex Ryan
spoiled your season.
Rex Ryan loves spoiling your season. His team might have 3 wins by the time they play the season finale on December 28th. But Rex would love to keep you out of the playoffs, and so that one has me a little bit scary. As I said earlier, you gotta either steal one against the Patriots or Denver, or you got to beat Baltimore if you want to get to 10.
In my opinion. No playoffs is a failure. 3 years, no playoffs.
No playoffs till you fire Joe Philbin.
Yes.
Why? Who are you going to replace him with?
It doesn't matter. Someone who can get this team to the playoffs.
Okay.
Because he can't. Oh, you didn't catch it.
I know.
Yes.
So we have a challenge from Mr. Paul David Jr. from Twitter. He's laughing at the fact that Omar
How do you know he's
says,
laughing?
because he puts LOL.
Oh,
he's laughing
there
at
you
the
go.
fact
Okay.
that Omar said the Dolphins need 9 wins to make it to the playoffs. He
think
says
10.
It's gotta
or
be 10.
10. Okay, well he's still challenges you.
laughing.
Right.
Okay.
He says, challenge, this isn't, no, sorry, wrong one. Challenge, if the Fins beat Denver, they still may have to beat the Ravens, sweep the Jets, and beat Minnesota for 11 wins. Is that possible?
11
possible.
Anything is possible, but if you look at the AFC North, and I think those are the teams that are serious. San Diego probably has the toughest schedule of everybody left.
Agree.
And if you look at the AFC North, they're going to beat each other up.
Yeah.
So I have it hard. I find it hard to believe that 2 of those teams are going to get to 11.
Okay.
And we don't know what's going to happen with Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City could, you lose Alex Smith. It's interesting. But
I
think
also
10
don't
wins is
forget,
unrealistic.
Also, don't forget, we talk about getting to that 10 wins. The Bengals only need to get to 10 wins because they have that one tie, and they're 10-5-1, and they win that tiebreaker over every other team that's 10-6 because they have a tie.
So that's how it works.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Okay. We all know how the Broncos are difficult to play, even though when they are struggling, which they seem to be right now. We've addressed their impressive record at home, and everyone knows Peyton Manning rarely loses 2 games in a row. Last time that happened was in the start of the 2012 season, his first month with the Broncos, when he lost a game on the road against the Falcons and then turned around and lost at home to the Texans. In those games, Manning completed 56% of his passes, throwing for 571 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was picked off 3 times and sacked 6 times. Here's my question for you, Omar. Can the Dolphins make Peyton Manning uncomfortable at home? And if so, how?
Change up the defense. You're not going to get pressure on Peyton Manning. How many years have we seen where teams have struggled to get pressure on Peyton Manning? And
His jersey's never dirty. His jersey is never dirty.
He gets the ball out of his hands. I think you got to take away his checkdowns. You got to take away the easy passes to him. That is the best way to get pressure on him. Force him to make big throws. And, certainly you're going to need safety help to take away those check down plays and linebacker help to take away those check down plays, which means these cornerbacks are going to be one-on-one on the boundaries. And that's going to be huge for guys like Brent Grimes and Jamar Taylor.
Taylor had a great game against the Bills.
If that's the way you want to get pressure on Peyton Manning, that's the only way to get pressure on Peyton Manning. Have those cornerbacks one-on-one. You're taking a chance. You're taking a gamble. Not sure you're willing to do it.
All right, let's take some rapid-fire questions from our viewers. Alex Zuniga, who goes by the Twitter handle @YearOfTheFish, wants to know, is Philbin involved in figuring out the red zone issues?
That's Joe Philbin's only job. Honestly, Joe Philbin doesn't really coach the team during the week. Joe Philbin creates game plans, creates strategies, conducts a meeting, organization. That's what Joe does. And Joe has talked about it. He said yesterday he went over all 55 of the team's first and 10 plays in the red zone this season to find out any correlation that's stalling this offense. Unfortunately, there's no correlation. It's dropped passes, inaccurate passes, pocket presence issues, penalties, sacks, bad runs. It's a hodgepodge of errors and mistakes. And the question is, do you need to go back to, last year they were pretty efficient in the red zone. Do you need to bring out some of those plays and change some of those routes that you're running in order to have a more efficient red zone? Because a lot of people will say it's the fact that they can't run with power. And I've been one of those guys where they're a little bit too finesse in the red zone. However, Lamar Miller's gotten the job done running the ball. Maybe it's the fact that you don't have 2 tight ends that are big targets. Well, Deion Sims is a big target. You've got everything you need. Big receiver. Hell, if that's the case, play Jarvis Landry. You've got everything you need to be an efficient red zone team. Problem is, you're just not doing it.
All right, Panka FinFan has a good question. Could we say that there were some good draft picks now by Jeff Ireland when you look back at guys like Rashad Jones and Charles Clay, Jared Odrick, Kolomisi,
Jimmy Wilson.
Can we go back and give him a little bit of credit now?
I've always given Jeff Ireland credit. I mean, Jeff Ireland's draft picks, people are going to say this is sacrilegious, but if you look at Jeff Ireland's drafting history over Jimmy Johnson's drafting history, don't say this too loud. Just look at the track record of the draft picks. Yeah, Jimmy found 2 potential Hall of Famers, but that's and 2 great cornerbacks. That's about it. He never drafted a good offensive player. And if you look at what Jeff Ireland has been able to do, it's a pretty solid core and foundation of a team. What Dennis Hickey did is he came in and he spotted a couple of pieces that can help you win. A left tackle, another defensive tackle. But Jelani Jenkins is a Jeff Ireland player. Rashad Jones is a Jeff Ireland player. Brent Grimes was added as a Jeff Ireland player. You look at a lot of the pieces on this team. The only thing that Jeff Ireland that had to be rebuilt was the offensive line and the linebacking core. And realistically, 2 of the linebackers are Jeff Ireland players.
Who traded up for Deion Jordan too?
Yeah.
Next question.
Hey, listen,
Next question.
when they figure out that he's a linebacker and not a defensive end, he might take off.
All right, jury's still out. Bobby Krauss has an interesting idea. How do you feel about using Earl Mitchell as a lead blocker and fullback in the red zone?
That is one aspect of this team that I'm going to throw a flag on, on this regime. Listen, they've never had a fullback.
Right.
Rarely. They had Tyler Klutz last year. He's now starting for the Dallas Cowboys. They need a fullback, a lead blocker. In order to kill the game in your 4-minute offense, a fullback would be useful. In order to score in the red zone.
I feel like a couple games that would have really helped out.
Yeah.
A couple games in particular.
You never need a fullback until you need a fullback.
Right.
And that's my biggest issue with this management in terms of their belief and concept that they don't need a fullback. Trust me, you need a fullback. You would have finished games better if you had a fullback. You would be more efficient in the red zone if you had a fullback. And fortunately for the Dolphins, Earl Mitchell has played fullback in his high school career. He's got the build to be sort of a lead blocker. He's not doing anything on offense. Why not give him a call? Last year, they actually used Paul Soliai in that role.
I remember that. All right, we got a couple more that just came in today. So we'll take, again, your questions, just hashtag XOmar. Here's an interesting question. Let's talk a little bit about punting, shall we? What is up with Brandon Fields, asks Tim.
He's been better.
But he was the best. He's been the best punter in the NFL.
His protection is not comfortable.
Okay.
And a way that they explained it to me, the team explained it to me, is it's like a quarterback in pocket presence. You're a little bit off when your protection isn't sound. And early in the season, it wasn't sound, and it might not be sound because they just lost Jonathan Freeney. So special teams has had issue all season, but they're playing a lot better lately.
All right. So you think there's nothing wrong with Fields himself?
There's nothing wrong with Fields. Fields is a Pro Bowl player. Let's kill some more.
All right. And how about before we're done, just one more Ryan Tannehill question.
Of course.
At Tori Totha asks, does Tannehill need to be more aggressive with his feet in the red zone? Let's take it in particular in the red zone. Is that going to fix some of their issues?
I think they could run a little bit more in the red zone.
With Tannehill?
With Tannehill. I would love some more rollout left, rollout right, 2-option reads. It's not there. Take what you can get. Problem is, when you play that style of offense, you lead your quarterback to exposed to hits. And you know how I feel about Tannehill playing all 16 games this season.
Yeah, you don't think it's going to happen?
Don't think it's going to happen. If you keep running them. If you keep running them.
All right, it's prediction time. How do you feel about Sunday? How do you see it playing out?
You know what? As much as I would love to tell you that the Dolphins are talented enough to beat the Denver Broncos and even an injury-riddled Denver Broncos team, I just think the road game, the offensive inefficiencies in the red zone, Peyton Manning's going to figure out how to get it done with Andre Caldwell, with his fourth tailback.
Jacob Tammy.
Yeah. Peyton Manning is Peyton Manning. There's a reason why he's a first ballot Hall of Fame player, still in his prime. He's obviously was embarrassed by last week, and I think he's going to get it fixed, get it done. I think I can see a 21-17 victory for the Denver Broncos.
I see it a little bit wider, more something like 28-17. I think the Dolphins give them a fight, but I think you're right. I think late in this game, Peyton Manning and that offense is just going to be too strong, even if they are short a few weapons.
I mean, but if the Dolphins do somehow pull off an upset, it would definitely provide a lot of cushion, and I think pulling off an upset over the Broncos would not only just give you a cushion, but put you in the driver's seat to finish in that wild card spot.
Yeah, what it does, it affords you a screw up later, which you know is coming.
You know it's coming.
You know it's
You're
coming.
waiting for that That's so Dolphins moment.
The Dolphins moment's coming. Why don't you win this game this weekend? All right, that's going to do it for X's and Omar. We're here live every Wednesday at 12:15, breaking down your Fins. You can find the replay of this show on sunsentinel.com. If you're looking for more Dolphins news, you can find Omar Kelly's First and 10 with Dolphins center Samson Sattelli on sunsentinel.com sports pages. Thank you for coming. We'll see you next week.